Hi, and welcome to my beginner's tips and tricks guide for Crusader Kings 3. I'm Icon, and this video will guide you through all the little things you need to know to make the game work for you and enable you to have fun with it. Because let's be honest about this game, it's having a ton of content, a ton of mechanics, and even more complicated things to know about. But as soon as you've dug through the learning curve, it's insanely fun and well worth the time spent. So while I'm going to cover up strategic decisions and gameplay things across this video, I'm going to start with things which are covering up the game creation, and we're going to get into a game during the course of this video. This video is going to be a little bit of everything and nothing content-wise, and if you want to know more about a specific topic, feel free to browse for more specific videos. This game has so many topics that I won't be able to cover them all up in a beginner's tips and tricks guide, and this is basically already the first thing I want to point out. Be eager to learn more. You ought to be a king or even an emperor over a whole large kingdoms and empires. That's not a easy task. It brings many things to learn to you. So first off, I want to say play that tutorial. If you don't like tutorials, I can just say play that tutorial. It's short, it's easy to understand, and it gives you a basic understanding about the game's controls. And I have to break a lance here for Paradox. They did a good job on the tutorial. It's really fun to play. I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot with it. And after that, go out and decide for a story which looks appealing to you. That's my first actual tip here, because this game will, if you're new to this whole franchise, you will learn so much that this game will really start to be exhausting during the first few sessions. I can't deny it. It's just like it is. And a story which is for you compelling and interesting and brings you in a way that you want to live through the story is exactly what you need to have fun while learning. So feel free to experiment around with various different entrances. I mean, the difficulty levels here are only depicting how difficult it is to live through that story. If you go on the play as any ruler button here, you're getting a complete map over the known world during that time, and guess what, you can pretty much play everybody here. So this is, once you know what you're doing in this game, a wonderful way of creating endless new scenarios. But before you do that, I would strongly advise you to stick to these prefabricated scenarios, because they're basically guaranteed to pull up a story for you. Those things in the play as any ruler screen, some of them are really hard to even survive through the first few years, so it's up to you. But apart from that, I can't really say much more about this screen here and the actual selection of the game. Play where you want and as who you want, and most importantly, try and take a style which is appealing to you. I'm going to go for Merchant because he's our guy from the tutorial, and he's a very good example for easy starts of the gameplay. So as Merchant, we start in the petty kingdom of Munster. This is where we start, and this is where the game starts to get complicated on us. So first beginner's tip here is take your time for one approach onto the game. Like, if you look here, your rulers have 5 different talents to live from. I found it very, very helpful to, like, in this scenario, I focused only on the martial aspect of Merchant. Taking the game from one particular angle, like the stewardship point, or the religious learning point, or the intrigue point, or the diplomatic point of view, helps you to dig through that insane amount of knowledge necessary to manage that game as a whole. I mean, the more you learn about it, the more you notice that it's all interconnected, and it becomes easier the longer you play. That's a good thing about this game. But that's really the long story short. Focus on some particular game playing style. It really helps you a lot to make your learning process fun. Because the whole point about my video here is you should bring up the fun to this game, which brings me to the next point. Set up your goals according to your own story. This game gives you practically no goals. The only goals that this game gives you are found here in the decisions board, and these are bigger goals that are just, well, I would say, mechanisms to either give you tools to found an holy order, or sometimes in other regions, like when you're starting down here in Spain, you can reenact certain historic moments like the Reconquista of Spain or the restoration of the Holy Roman Empire is something you can do in the campaign of 867. So these decisions are giving you certain goals, but mostly and foremostly, Crusader Kings is about the story you decide for that particular family you went for. So in this scenario, the game gives you the idea that you might want to claim the crown with Murchad. I mean, he has a claim on that crown, so why not take it? But mostly, really important beginner's tip for this game: choose your story how you want to play it, and play it that way. You want to seduce the Pope? Go for it. Do you want to establish a Wiccan witchcraft theocracy across Central Europe? Go and try for it. It's really up to you, and this is where this game truly shines, because it's a monstrous, huge sandbox of history, which really includes a lot of different cultures and ways of living that you can try out. And the most fun part about that is wherever you play, the game adjusts to the local culture and such. And that brings me to the next beginner's tip. So we get now slowly into the mechanic part of this video. So if you like what you've seen so far, feel free to click on that subscribe button down there. It helps a lot, and you can turn on the notifications if you want to, but I don't mind if you don't. What I do mind is that we're going to continue this little tutorial here. So really important and helpful for me was this stuff down here. So always when you begin a new game with a new character, make yourself familiar with your surroundings and with your resources. One of those is your religion. It's so important that you check out how the religion of your particular people works, because it's so different sometimes. Like I never knew that the all Irish people were polygamous. You can't marry up to 4 people. It's really vital to know that. Or if you're playing in a Norse culture, there's human sacrifices enabled in the older ages. So this is a very important screen full of interesting informations which help you to understand how the religion works and what the rules are. Sometimes the rules are that strange that you can pull off strategies which wouldn't be accepted in our culture. And next point, check out the holy sites for your particular religion. It's always pretty cool to know that, because you see here there's the site of Armagh, and controlling that gives you a certain bonus over your people. So that's just the basics about religion. There's so much to say about religion, but this screen gives you the do's and don'ts about your certain religion you're following. It's really important to know about that. Next up is the culture screen. It's not as important as the religion screen, in my personal opinion, but it's quite nice to check out what kind of technologies are available for your culture and which are not, because sometimes certain technologies are giving you such strong advantages that it's really good to know about that. So that's the other point. Last screen here goes for the dynasty. This is interesting later down the road. So there are legacies which are bolstering your dynasty the longer your game goes, because this game is not about just playing with one person, but much more with the descendants of one person and the entire house. And the dynasty screen is interesting to me in that degree that this is the best way of getting a real overview about the bloodlines and how these houses are made up. You can check that out for every house outside yours, and sometimes when you're, especially when you're a diplomacy player, these things are really helpful to check out how people are related and how things are working out between each other. So that's here, information is key. About the lifestyles is, I don't want to talk too much about the lifestyles. It's basically just the bolstering for your playstyle, and always choose the lifestyle fitting to your playstyle to begin with, if you're a beginner. You can do crazy things with that stuff later down the road, but maybe not if you're a beginner. So next beginner's tip around the topic here is use your marriages and use them quickly. Being without heir is really, really dangerous. You would want to have 2 to 4 possible heirs at every point of the game. These people in these ages are murderous, brutal people, and the life is often more short than you would want it to be. Illnesses happen, intrigues happen, and you can die very, very suddenly and very, very quickly. So long story short, always marry your people to get heirs as soon as you can, but at the same time keep an eye out on the alliances. Try to ally yourself with people which are really giving you some benefits. Like in this scenario, allying with the people over here at Wales sounds like a pretty good idea because I'm pretty close to Wales. Allying myself to people down in the Normandy, well, that's still okay, but quite a stretch. But if we start to ally ourselves with Spanish people or people down there in Germany, or, well, here, Dessau, that's a good example. Like, how on earth are we supposed to form an alliance over this distance in these dark ages? Keep an eye out on that. These alliances are very, very powerful tools to win wars with, and use them. But at the same time, don't fire out all your marriage ammunition at once. Alliances will break over the course of the time. When the person you married somebody to dies and is no longer the head of the family there, the alliance will break too. So be careful around that. Keep always some marriage material alive, because marriages are really a way to gain power and connect with other houses. And once you're out of marriage material, you can't use that tool that easily anymore. I know it sounds a little bit weird how I formulate it, but you get the idea better like this. So that's the marriage thing, and the heirdom thing, which is really, really a beginner's tip, because the first few times I tried to play this game, I instantly died and had no heirs. So really nice to know. So let's get to the next topic, and that's war. To do war, you need 2 things: an army and a claim or a culture which allows you just to wage war. How to wage war is always defined by your culture and your religion somewhat. And usually this screen here is the suggestion screen is very helpful. And if you want to go for war, there are a few things that you always should keep in mind. Check out your enemy first. So you see here the enemy's strength. You see your own strength there. Always try to be heavily in the upper hand there. And also check out your enemy himself before you declare war. Sometimes some people are having strong alliances with people from other lands which they can call into a war, and you can easily underestimate your enemy by that. The next important thing before you start a war, make sure your armies are strong enough to siege his places. You will need always more own soldiers than a place has people in his garrison. If you have a smaller army than the garrison, you can't succeed with the siege, and without successful sieges, your war will stop. And during a war, your only way of getting new soldiers is by hiring men-at-arms, and that's a costly thing, which brings me to the next point. If you want to make war, make sure you have some money on the spare side. War is almost always a costly thing, and having some gold up front makes it easier. But during a war, you get the opportunity to make peace with your enemy at some point. But keep in mind, you don't need to make peace immediately. You can keep plundering his other holds for the loot they can provide. If you click these areas here, you see they have loot Every one of them has some sort of gold, and you won't get that after making peace with those people. So if you're really short on gold, maybe you might want to pillage a little bit more before you make that peace. Some cultures and some backgrounds are really good at pillaging in general. It all comes down to the culture you're of. Here we are feudal middle-aged people, so we only can make war if there's a proper claim behind that. To get claims, there are two big ways. You can invite claimants. And this will bring people to your court, which you can just invite, which you can recruit, and they have claims for you to take over areas. Or you order your bishop to fabricate a claim on a county. So with that order, your bishop will start manipulating in papers and such and create a claim for you. This will cost you in the end money and decrease the opinion of the person you fabricated a claim upon, because it doesn't really make the other person happy if you just pull a paper out of your hat which says your land is mine, and the other person exactly knows that it's not true. So long story short, these are the two major ways of gaining claims. There are other ways going deeper down the road, but these don't belong into a beginner's tutorial. And what does belong into a beginner's tutorial is also talking about how to build your counties and how to spend your money properly. Spend it sparingly. Spend it according to your goals. Don't spend your money too lightly, because events come down the road which need your money, and a lot of things cost money. So pretty much before you do any bigger action, make sure you have like at least 50 to 100 pieces of gold in your treasury to make sure you don't get struck by any bad things. If you don't have that kind of money, it's better to wait most of the time. If you build up your county, always go for the buildings along the way of your play style. Always make sure that you have a certain military strength. That's very important, or have allies with the military strength which you can hold. Don't just build blindly. Examine how these buildings develop and check out which of these bonus things you need mostly. Because I've experienced one thing about this game: you can build only a few things during the early game, and they define your progress quite harshly. So another thing there is try to keep people around you happy. That's really a good thing to do, because if they are too unhappy with you and under some circumstances they start murdering you, it's a very unpleasant thing to happen. So try to keep people, especially your vassals around you, happy. And there are so many other things to talk about, but they would really bust the frame of a beginner's tutorial. So overall, I want to sum up: do your way and focus around it. The council and these seats here help you along your way. I don't want to talk too much about all these functions here, because these would be all topics for bigger tutorials down the road. The court screen is quite important. It will show you which people are at your court and which people you can invite to your court, and you can manage your prisoners here. Maybe I'm going to cover up these screens a little bit before I leave this video. The council I did here before. In the military screen, you find your own soldiers. You can hire mercenary bands, very costly, very effective, and also available for your enemies. So take these into account as well before waging war. And holy orders are religious things. Here you can also create your men-at-arms. And oh yeah, that's quite important to know as well. Men-at-arms are always specialized units. I really like to use men-at-arms fitting to my enemy's armies, and you can just check out how your enemy's armies are composed over here. Your realm screen is your screen where you can just manage your realm, renegotiate pacts. You gain a lot of that knowledge across the tutorial screen. This is some screen you won't be touching for too much for a longer time when you're new to the game, but basically it gives you an overview about vassals, successions, and things which will make you think about when your first regent dies. The intrigue screen is also very important to know, because here's everything stored around hooks and secrets, and the intrigue player is loving that stuff. Last but not least, the factions are people forming together and trying to toss you away from the throne. You can also join factions against other people. This is some piece of gameplay mostly used when you're actually somebody's vassal. And last but not least, the decisions where you can make engage on some event chains, like take a vow of poverty, and that changes things for you. You can go on a pilgrimage, you can host a feast and such things. These all have impacts according to the event, and I don't want to spoil it too much. Try around with it, and that's maybe one of the last things I want to say for this video. Experiment. Don't be shy to try around, toss away, and retry. This game has so many different roads to go. It's really a pleasure to just try around, and I'm well aware that I didn't cover up many things during this video, so feel free to drop me a comment down below about what you would like to know more, and or share more knowledge which you think I missed out deeply. You will find more tutorials from me along the road, and or more Crusader Kings content, so thanks for watching on that one. I'm going to end this beginner's tutorial here, so leave it a like if it was helpful to you, or leave a subscription if you want to show some more dedication and or want to catch up on the information. Whatever you do, I wish you a wonderful time, and we're going to see each other soon on another video, I hope. Goodbye.